Welcome back, everybody. We're here at the Bitcoin Chats with Sergio and Daveed. Looking at the markets lately, looks like, compared to last year, Sergio, I think just jumping right into it, we're still about 46% down from the high of all time back in 2025 and this and that. I mean, we are at 126,000. But the markets seem to be kind of doing a little push. There's still a lot of action and activity going on. We've seen a lot of stuff in real estate starting to happen, in the sense of people starting to, maybe get money out of different areas or trying to move money into other commodities like real estate in Costa Rica or El Salvador and Panama. We've actually done a couple of deals as well. And that's brought up a lot more stuff with security, which I think we're going to talk about today. So give me a little bit what's been going on with you, what's happening, and then let's jump into kind of speaking about escrow today and how escrow works and how we can protect it and maybe give some real life experiences with it as well.
Yes, absolutely. Good to be here. The market, well, there are a lot of things going on in the Middle East, in the US, also with the AI thing. A lot of institutional move money basically from Bitcoin to other assets. So many moving parts, but I think that things are moving on the right direction, and well, it's part of the journey for Bitcoin and crypto investors.
Yeah, I mean, I think the institutional flow is pretty interesting as well. I mean, those spot BTC ETFs and all that have been, I think there's over a couple billion now sitting in those right now in today's market. So there's a lot of push for, I'd say, the not as comfortable with Bitcoin still people, but they can invest in different manners. And I think that's been really creating a common ground for all of us to come together in the same concept.
Yes, exactly. And well, we have inflation in the US. Well, the Genius Act almost there, the Clarity Act. So let's see how this end up. But if you ask me, I'm really positive. I have a position in 110, and I'm okay.
Yeah,
I know how this works. So
I mean, listen, I always said once BlackRock comes in, I mean, they did a lot of the heavy lifting to get things going, right? So, I mean, right now they're not selling, they're not moving the cash. So, hold on to that ride as well. And it's going to make things even better. So, all right, well, let's jump in. I know today you and I have had a conversation about security and doing transactions in Central or Latin America via Bitcoin or crypto, let's call it escrow companies. I think you've had a real life experience recently where you had something that kind of happened. Why don't you walk us through that for our viewers and just see what else we can kind of understand from that, how to protect them. And we can talk a little bit about more the regulations of how we work with crypto and our escrow companies that you and I work with.
Yes, exactly. Because sometimes people ask me, hey, but give me some reasons about why working with you guys. And well, I give several reasons, but a very important thing is the security of the transaction. Regarding the story that happened in Costa Rica, in the Pacific, I was approached by a real estate agent. They had a buyer with crypto. So basically, we start the traditional process. It was, by the way, a Chinese buyer. So we send the KYC link and the KYT to understand the person and the coins and the blockchain. He was using USDT BNB. BNB is the blockchain. It's a blockchain, a very big blockchain created by Binance. At that point, the buyer said, no, I don't want to do KYC. Of course, that's a huge red flag. We canceled the transaction, but our technical team said, hey, we know there's a scam there. So why don't we continue the conversation to understand the angle, because that's very important for us. So we continued the conversation. We said, okay, what would you like to do? So he said, okay, I would like to send $100,000, but in four tranches of $25,000, and I need to send it to a bank account in Mexico. We said, okay, but you need to send the coins first. We gave him a wallet, a USDT BNB wallet we created. What I told at that point to my team was, they are not sending anything. It's a scam. This is a waste of time, but let's see. So he said, okay, I'm sending it.
What do you mean by what was a red flag that it was a scam when you saw it on the team? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're always waiting for people to send money. So what was a bigger red flag?
That he didn't want to do a KYC.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it was impossible. I mean, what I told was, look, for us, we are not able to work without any KYC. And a real estate transaction, imagine how is that going to happen without KYC?
Yeah.
So there's like a nonsense there. That was the biggest flag. So he said he was going to send. He wanted us to do a wire immediately. We said we don't do wires immediately. We need to review the coins to see that they arrive properly. So we could do it, but in the next hour. So he sent the coins, and in our wallet, I was like saying, hey, nothing will arrive, and then the guys told me, hey, the coins arrived, and I was, what, really? And we checked, and we saw the wire through the blockchain in the network in the big blockchain explorer, and we saw the 25,000 USDT. And I was, hey, let's check it because there's something weird, something doesn't make sense. Let's triple check it. So we start reviewing from every angle. At the end of the day, the transaction were real. What we're going to do is, hey, we cannot process, and here's your USDT back.
Yeah.
But the point is that we realize, and this is super important, that you have USDT, the coin issued by Tether on BNB blockchain, this Binance blockchain, and each USDT has $1 value. These guys issue a token, they put it USDT as the name, they did it on the BNB blockchain, but it has no value. So on reality, we receive a token, but named the same, but not issued by Tether, so it had zero value.
Wow.
So imagine someone without this type of experience, and our technical department and everything will review, will see the blockchain, the money, the tokens are in the wallet. Okay, I'm able to, I don't know, sign whatever I need to send the wire. So the important message for me is, hey, there are some really sophisticated guys trying to do bad things, and it's super important to do this transaction with someone that is able to monitor from every angle each transaction.
Yeah, I mean, they say right now that 80% of the title and escrow, there's fraud attempts in 2025 is some of the stuff I've been reading about. And so, most people are hit, but 90% of it's actually stopped because you have quality people behind it, like really looking at it. But when you say they actually were able to change the name, I mean, how is that possible? I mean, when I'm transferring USDT to, USDT, I'm literally going to my wallet and saying, here, Sergio, I'm sending you $100,000, and you're getting that on USDT. So how are they actually able to change? They were able to change the code, or just they were sending it from a not USDT. It was something else.
It was a token named USDT
that they created.
But it was that they created. Yes,
Gotcha.
but it looks the same. But it was not the real USDT. Imagine $100 bill that I create a copy exactly with everything. So I give you that bill. It looks the same, but it has zero value because it was not issued by the central bank.
How did the escrow company figure out, the team behind it, that out though? I mean, because if it says USDT and you looked at, what was the factors to look at that?
We have some wallets where we have a smart contract. So for example, we have a BNB wallet that only is able to receive tokens issued by Tether.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you have seen your wallet that sometimes you receive like airdrops and weird things.
Yeah.
So this type of wallets, all the other things are blocked and they don't appear there. So we use a generic wallet. We saw it. We send it to the other wallet and never appear. So we said, what is not appearing? Because it is not one of the pre-authorized token that we have on our smart contract. And that's how we realize.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've used my wallet on a Ledger actually, and Ledger has that, right? If you transfer the wrong Ethereum or BNB or USDT, it won't show up. Remember I had an incident one time where I thought I lost like quite a bit of money. I think I called Use Trust out for that reason, right? And we found it.
Yeah.
There was some worry, right? But yeah, interesting. Okay. So, I mean, going back to escrow companies, which is part of what our podcast and stuff has been talking about, is using qualified companies in Costa Rica or in Panama or in different areas that we can recommend. If any of our listeners want, they can reach out to us, that have the ability to really review that, because you're right. I mean, a lot of these transactions, not just for real estate, but for many things. I mean, people are doing transactions for cars. They're doing transactions for multiple factors. And the same situation, I want to make it clear to people that, this is not only crypto. This is also happening with dollar to dollar escrow accounts, right? Cloney to cloney, things like that, where fraud is happening because of the intensity of what people are being able to go into. I mean, we had an incident on a regular escrow deal where they actually got hacked the buyer's email and was able to send an email to them from the escrow company saying, "Hey, we're getting ready to close the deal. Please transfer the $500,000 here," right? And a seller's like, "Oh, or the buyer's like, oh, I got the email from the escrow company, went ahead and transfer money," and ended up being an account in somewhere in Asia, actually. So, you always want to use 1, 2, 3-step verification. The get to know your client form is pivotal. If you're working with a company that doesn't do that, that's something that is beyond, you have to really do it because it really clarifies everything and registers the client. And then work with reputable companies like yourselves, or ourselves, and the board that you and I sit on to actually go through those processes. Because without it, I mean, you've seen a lot of people lose anywhere from 100K to $1 million on one simple transfer, right? Where they're trying to do something or they've gotten hacked. I know recently, even I don't remember the name of the wallet, but I read it in my because I have my daily newsletters that came in. There was a wallet, I think it was in Europe, that got hacked. Quite a few accounts.
Yeah, the
Red wallet.
card wallet.
Red wallet.
It was like a card wallet.
Carwell, yeah, but the whole system got hacked, right? I mean, there was millions and millions that were
Yes.
lost in that one. So, and I don't think it was a hard wallet though. No, yeah. So I mean, going back to protection factors as you do this as well, we'd probably recommend a lot better to make sure people are keeping their coins and stuff on a hard wallet or something like that as well to a little bit more protection. So, but let's talk a little bit more about what are the other processes as we go through escrow. I know we've done this before, but let's kind of go through the concept of hey, I want to buy this property in Panama or Salvador right now, and I'm going to go to escrow. What would be that process to kind of go through it in a high level?
Yes. Yes. The important thing is the first step, the KYC. KYC, KYT. KYC is really straightforward. It's basically to know the background of the person or the entity, source of funds, everything. And the KYT, that is know your transaction, is to understand the coins, the digital assets, the Bitcoin, the USDT, everything. Because there are two things. One, the example I just gave, where it was fake USDT. So that's really straightforward, zero value. But there's another thing that we check, that people could come with real Bitcoins or real stable coins, but those stable coins or Bitcoins are flagged by OFAC, for example, or they have been stolen from other wallet. So that's something you're able to see if you have the right tools through the blockchain and don't accept this type of digital asset. So that's the second thing we check. So we validate, okay, the person is good, it's not a PEP. I mean, all the checks are okay. And the other thing, the coins or the digital assets are clean. Once that happens, then depending on the transaction, there are multiple avenues. For example, now we have a really nice tool that we are able to create name accounts. So, for example, if you're coming with coins, you're able to send the wire to the escrow. So the off-ramp includes a name account from US Bank. So the money gets into the escrow under your name with a bank account. That could be one option. The other option is through one of our companies, for example, an MSP license, a company with money transmitter license from Chile. I mean, from different jurisdiction. We send the money to the escrow, and from the escrow is, let's call it, the traditional part, based on the property deed and everything. Once they sign it, they disperse the funds.
Let's talk a little more about proof of funds, because I mean that's always an interesting one in crypto, because a lot of us have, for example, let's call it coins that are not sitting on a traditional, exchange, something like, let's call it Kraken or something like that, right? And so maybe it's just sitting on a ledger account and it's been there for years. So when you guys are qualifying those proof of funds, and the team is going through that, how are they really qualifying that? Because a lot of times, like you said, I mean, you might have had coins. I bought coins when they were, $5 a coin, right? And I've bounced it around from Kraken to different services and different areas, and then I put it back onto my ledger and things like that. So so there's not a whole lot of proof of funds. I mean, I guess you could track the history or try to go back onto it, but a lot of times it's just been sitting on my ledger for the last 10 years, let's call it.
Yeah, but that's a point, because, for example, in the traditional finance way, hey, now I have $10 million because 10 years ago I bought Tesla shares or Nvidia shares, and the value increased a lot. So my $2,000 investment is now 10 million, for example. Here's the proof. Okay, that's cool. You were lucky, visionary, whatever you want to call it. In the case of Bitcoin, for example, it's the same. Hey, like you said, I bought Bitcoin. I did a small investment 10, 15 years ago. This is the wallet. Coins has been sitting here for 10 years. We check. Coins are clean. Coins haven't moved. You did that transaction. The price increased. So it's the same scenario as the Tesla example or the Nvidia example. So
Yeah,
you're
but you're
ready
just asking
to
them. I
go.
mean, I guess my point is just for this, for simpler of our listeners out there, is that basically what you're going to do is then ask them to send call it a proof of funds from the ledger, right? Like giving a history from the ledger, maybe how long it's been sitting there or how long it was on there, something like that.
I mean, we always know with our tools because at the end of the day, they need to send us the money. So what we say is, hey, which wallet are you using?
Uh-huh.
And they send the address, and we're able to track back and see that. The other scenario is, okay, these wallets come from a wallet that had a lot of movement, so it hasn't been sitting there. So how did you get that? Because, for example, I sold this house and I received the payment in crypto.
Gotcha.
Here is the in the US, for example, here's the deed, and this is the hash. Okay, so we link that to a transaction, and we are okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's good. I mean, there's a lot of technical ways. People may think it's, it's real hard not to see stuff, but I guess the point behind that is there's a lot of technical ways to look at the proof of funds, where who the client is and really get there. So the key takeaway here for me is, and our listeners really is that, you need to follow the steps. A lot of people throw the steps out the window, but if you follow the steps, the protection is there. You work with the right escrow companies, you work with, make sure they're getting the get to know your clients, they're checking the proof of funds, things like that. And it's going to really deter people from actually being able to accomplish anything or get a scam to kind of happen, or, be able to transfer money. So, all right. Well, let's shift topics a little bit. Costa Rica.
Just to finish,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
with one important thing. When you're dealing with crypto, digital assets, don't try to do it by yourself if you don't have experience, and ask for help, because I had a case where a real estate developer here from San Jose, he know a bit about crypto, receive a payment, and then he said, "Hey, I would like to off ramp and send it to the US." It was 100K, but he had it already in his wallet. And when we reviewed the coins, they were terrible. So we said, hey, if we had the chance to review it, we would say to the buyer, hey, we cannot accept that coin, because the coins had a lot of flags. So we're happy always to help people, and hey, checking wallets or things like that before doing any movement.
Yeah, it's using your resources, right? Being smart about it, because just because someone has, they might have, X amount of XPR or something like that, we want to do it. You may not always be good to take that, right? So it's like anything you've got to look at. It's kind of like if you look at it like currencies, right? There's certain currencies you're not going to want to take to buy your property or to transfer or do something. So, okay. I know. Great point.
Yes.
All right. Just before we finish up today, let's talk a little about the markets going on: Salvador, Panama, Costa Rica. I know you've got a conference coming up in Panama. I got asked to speak at a conference in Costa Rica. I'm not sure we're going to do it as well. There's been a lot of AI kind of website stuff coming out I've seen lately for like rental sites where you could, rent the houses in Bitcoin or Ethereum or things like that. I mean, I'm getting hit daily. I've got another company that's been contacting me a lot, which I need to return their phone call about. They're coming out with their coin right now in the United States. You still see a lot of new coins coming out. So there's a lot of activity going on. I mean, I feel like the market's kind of moving. I mean, it's not, maybe we're not up where we want to be at on Bitcoin, things like that, but there's definitely a lot of movement going on. So what newer things are you seeing? Where are you going in Panama? Where are you going to be speaking at? What's going on? Give us a little update.
Yes, I mean there's a lot of activities, and let's don't forget, now that prices are low, depends on the angle, but it could be considered low. It's the moment to buy. This is not financial advice, but sometimes people, hey, I'm buying because Bitcoin is back
Yeah.
at 100K. No, the moment is right now where the market is low. I'm going to Panama to. It's more like a venture capital event for. There's an startup competition, and general, not necessarily focus on crypto or digital assets. I will be talking about the venture capital landscape here in Latin America. But the cool thing about that event is that there will be Tether is one of the sponsors. For those of you that don't know, Tether has become really, really active here in Central America. There's a director for Tether Central America who is based in Guatemala. He will be joining that event too. There will be a Tether hackathon there
Oh, cool.
in that event. More than 10,000 USDTs in prices for startups. So I think it will be a really good event. And the important thing now you see the traditional startups, venture capital, the competition, the events and everything, combine it with huge companies like Tether, with the blockchain developers, Web3 developers. So those are type of things that you don't used to see in past cycles. And this is one of the reasons, like I was telling you at the beginning, hey, at the end of the day, I'm really bullish. The price is part of multiple things, but I think what is happening in general is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of movement. I mean, I think the adaptation of people becoming more comfortable with what Bitcoin is and or the concept of let's call it cryptocurrency, not so much as Bitcoin, right? Because they're different things. I mean, I know there's been a lot of movement in the area of XRP, things like that. I mean, there's been a lot of movement in different categories in Asia, in Latin America. I mean, Salvador is still making a huge push. Panama's making a huge push right now. I haven't been hearing. I mean, I've been involved in some of the stuff in Mexico. You've been more involved there than I know, but I know there is an active community there. But even my son was traveling surfing in Chile and Argentina, those areas, and even he was saying, hey, there's different areas I could buy in Bitcoin. I could do different things. So I mean, you're definitely seeing that adaptation to it and the comfort level coming not just from gentlemen like you and I at this level we're at, but also let's call it more of the common person working and running a soda, going, hey, I'm going to put this up on my thing, and I can accept money and soda for someone to buy a Gallo Pinto, right? And so I think that's a really neat concept as it starts to grow. The funny part that I think I've made comment to before is that I find it strange that I see so much more adaptation in Latin America than I actually see in the US. You know what I mean? Like when I travel to the US,
Yes.
you really don't see that much. I mean, yes, I know there's a lot of Bitcoiners and cryptocurrency things going on, right? On the bigger level, but in the general public, you really don't see it, right? Whereas I mean, I'm still, running through, I'm in the southern zone and in the Baena coastline here, and we've got Bitcoin jungle and we've got all this stuff going on. And I travel a lot. I mean, I'm going to Chicago and next month, and I was just in Washington, and it's like, I just don't see anything. I don't, you don't go to a grocery store and see like, hey, this is what's going on, right? Or can take out money. I think actually the only thing I ever saw was the Bitcoin ATM. Remember that one? And I think they just filed for
Yes.
bankruptcy in the United States. So
Yeah.
that's not good news for us.
I saw, I was in Miami a couple of weeks ago and they had an ATM where you were able to buy Bitcoin and gold. I was surprised that you're
And
able to
gold,
buy
really?
gold.
Wow.
Yes, I have a picture. I'll
I
send
mean,
it to you.
that's interesting. That's the kind of thing that gets robbed right off the bat, right? Take the gold and run. But yeah,
And regarding Latin America, yes, for example, in Mexico, you have Bitso,
uh-huh.
that is one of the biggest exchanges. The remittance market is huge between US and Mexico using stablecoins. And then you have the cases, especially from Argentina, where you have Ripio and Venezuela, places with hyperinflation, where the use of USDT or stablecoins in general
Yeah.
is massive because people are hedging against their local currencies.
Yeah.
So I think Latin America, at least as an emerging market, is more like bottom up, like we were discussing a few episodes before, and the US is a bit top down.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see it. I mean, even in Europe, I mean, you do see it as much, but not as much as you would think. So it's an interesting concept, and especially with the big movement, like I said earlier in the podcast, with like BlackRock and what they're doing and their push and their IBIT shares, all that kind of fun stuff. So I don't know, it's an interesting move to watch. It's an interesting wave that we're seeing come through right now, and so I'm excited for the next steps. So. All right. Well, listen, buddy, it's good to see you again. Good to meet with you. I look forward to our talks and more of that. I know we're going to be more active on doing some different things. I mean, bringing new things to the table. We've got some events coming up, both you and I. So we'll probably do some off, call it somewhere. You'll do it from Panama. I might do one for Chicago with you. Maybe we can plan from both places. And then sooner or later, we've got to actually meet up again. I know our last one was, and we had a great one with the meetup, but our next one needs to be maybe in San Jose or something as well. So if anybody has any questions out there, put it in our comments or email us directly. We're happy to answer, give you more information. And we look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day,
Bye.
everybody.